Multiplying or dividing rational expressions turns out to be also pretty simple. If you understood how to simplify rational expressions, which really is just factor the top and bottom and cancel any common factors, then actually multiplying and dividing rational expressions is pretty much the same thing. So in the case of multiplication, such as this one, all you have to do is multiply across, but don't FOIL, just multiply across by basically writing everything in a single big fraction, and then go ahead and simplify. So let's multiply these two rational expressions. So first I'm going to multiply across, but I'm not going to FOIL. I'm just going to write everything in one big fraction. So write both of these on the top. So I'm just going to write x to the fifth, x squared minus 5x minus 14 times x squared minus 4, all that over x squared minus 3x plus 2, x squared minus 14x plus 49. All right, so now what you see, we have just one rational expression, which we have to just simplify. And we simplify it by um, factoring everything as much as possible and canceling any common factors. So let's go ahead and factor everything as much as possible. These two, that factors as x minus 7, x plus 2. Then the next one is the difference of squares. That factors as x minus 2, x plus 2. And in the bottom, that factors as x minus 2, x minus 1. And then the next one factors as x minus 7, x minus 7. Okay, now cancel anything that is a common factor 1, pairing them with as one from the top and one from the bottom. So I can cancel an x minus 7 with an x minus 7. And we can cancel an x minus 2 with an x minus 2. And anything that remains is the answer. So what remains is x plus 2, x plus 2, and on the bottom x minus 1, x minus 7. Now, don't FOIL back anything, so don't multiply this out. You can just leave it like that. Although on the top, you see the factors are repeated, so it is better if you just write x plus 2 squared. But either way, don't multiply that out. Just leave it in factored form. Leaving it in factored form is considered simpler than multiplying everything back out. So just leave it factored. So on the bottom, x minus 1, x minus 7, and that completes that problem. All right, and that's it. Now, let's do an example where we do division instead of multiplication. Division is pretty much the same thing as multiplication because you can always take any division and convert it right away into a multiplication. So look at this one, it is a division. And the first thing we're going to do is right away change that to a multiplication. So to change it to multiplication, you change the division to multiplication and flip this one. Dividing is the same as multiplying, but they're reciprocal. So 2x squared plus x minus 6, all that over x squared minus 1 times, and then the reciprocal of that one, flip this one, x squared plus 2x plus 1 over x squared minus 4. All right, and now this is multiplication. you can just multiply across, but don't FOIL, just write it all as a single big fraction. So 2x squared plus x minus 6, x squared plus 2x plus 1, all that over x squared minus 1, x squared minus 4. Okay, and then we're going to factor that. So let's factor the very first one on a separate piece of paper. So I'm going to factor that over here. Okay, let's review real quick how to factor that. Because this is not as easy as the previous ones that we've encountered in this lesson. So, because this is not a 1, it's not as easy, but it's still not hard. So, remember the procedure is multiply 2 times negative 6 and write it down. So 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. And then we're going to think of two numbers such that when you multiply them, you get negative 12. When you add them, you get the number in the middle, which is 1. There's an invisible 1 there. Okay, so two numbers, when you multiply them, you get negative 12. When you add them, you get positive 1. That would be 4 and 3, but we have to choose a sign so that we do get positive 1, so you need to put this one negative. So 4 and negative 3 is positive 1. When you multiply them, you get negative 12. So then, we're going to split that up, determine the middle, which is 1, as 4 and 3. So 4x and negative 3x minus 6. Then we're going to factor the GCF from the first two and factor the GCF from the second two. From the first two, you have 2x. And from the next, you have a negative 3. You can pull out a negative 3. All right, and then you see that x plus 2 is common. Factor it out, and what remains is that. So the other factor is 2x minus 3, and that's how this one factors. So that one factors like this. So I'm going to go ahead and write here x plus 2, 2x minus 3, and then this one, that one has a 1 in front as the leading coefficient, so that one is easier to factor. So I'm going to leave that one for you, but that one factors as x plus 1, x plus 1, or x plus 1 squared. You can do it. I'm just going to write it twice. And then the bottom, both of these are difference of squares. So that's x minus 1, x plus 1 for the first one. And the next one is again a difference of squares, x minus 2, x plus 2. Okay, so now everything is factored as much as possible. Now we can go ahead and cancel common factors. So x plus 2 cancels with x plus 2. X plus 1 cancels with 1x plus 1. And whatever remains is the answer. And we don't multiply this back out, we just leave it like that. 2x minus 3 and x plus 1 on the top. And on the bottom, you have x minus 1, x minus 2, and that's the end. Okay. Now let's do another one. The next one is a division. You should stop the video right here and try it on your own. It says m squared minus 9 over m squared plus 5m plus 6 divided by 3 minus m over m plus 2. So take your time, give it a shot, and then let's compare notes. Okay, let's do it. So this is, first thing we're going to do is change the multiplication, the division to multiplication. So times m plus 2 over 3 minus m. Okay, then we can write it, multiply across and write it all in a single big fraction. So m squared minus 9m plus 2, all that over m squared plus 5m plus 6 over 3 minus m. Okay, now we're going to simplify. That requires just factoring and canceling, and that's all. So the first one factors is a difference square, so factors is m minus 3, m plus 3, and then you have the m plus 2. And the bottom factors as m plus 3, m plus 2, and then you have 3 minus m. Okay, we're going to cancel any repeated factors. M plus 3 cancels with m plus 3, and then m plus 2 cancels with m plus 2. Okay, what is left is m plus 3, m minus 3, and 3 minus m. Okay, this is the same phenomenon that we already encountered. These are not really identical, so we cannot really cancel them, but we can do the little trick of pulling out a negative so we can switch the order and then cancel. So we're going to pull out a negative from the top, and then we can reverse the order. Now they're identical, and now we can cancel. So what remains when you cancel is a 1, not a 0. A 1, so that means the answer is negative 1. Okay, and that's how you multiply or divide rational expressions.